So Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today in this video we are going to do the hypoglossal nerve, which is also known as the cranial nerve number 12. It is a motor nerve. It is present in the posterior cranial fossa and it is present in the midbrain. So now where it does it come actually from the midbrain is a very important discussion. So if you look clearly at this diagram, this is the level of the midbrain, and midbrain has two pyramids on the anterior side, two olives posterolaterally. So if there is a groove between the pyramids and the olives, there is this hypoglossal nerve coming out of that groove. And if we look at it here, these are the pyramids, these are the olives, and they have the olivary nuclei. So the hypoglossal nerve is coming out between the pyramid and the olive. And the nucleus of the hypoglossal nerve is located medially just anterior to the fourth ventricle. So this is the posterior side, this is the anterior side, and the nucleus is just anteromedial to the fourth ventricle, and it comes out between the pyramids and the olives. If I explain that to you in a schematic diagram, so if we understand like this, these are the two pyramids, and pyramids have a fissure in between them, but that fissure is having no nerve coming out of it. But on the posterolateral side we have these two black pens, which are actually the olives, and the groove between the pyramid and the olive, it has a nerve coming out, and this nerve is known as the hypoglossal nerve. So this is how it comes out from between the pyramid and the olive. So now when it emerges from this nucleus, the hypoglossal nerve then moves through the lenticular formation of the brain, then through the medial longitudinal fasciculus, then through the medial lemniscus, and then it comes out between the pyramid and the olive region of the midbrain, and it comes out as the hypoglossal nerve. So as soon as the hypoglossal nerve comes out from the area between the pyramid and the olive, it goes to this region which is known as the hypoglossal canal. So as you can see, here is our hypoglossal canal. So hypoglossal nerve goes through this hypoglossal canal, and then it runs between two of these things. So just after exiting the hypoglossal canal, it will run between the internal carotid artery and the internal jugular vein. After it leaves the hole between the internal carotid artery and the internal jugular vein, it then comes forward, and just on the inferior border of this digastric muscle posterior belly, firstly it was passing between these internal carotid artery and the internal jugular vein, but when it reaches the lower border of this digastric muscle, then it passes between, now it is going to pass between these two, which are the internal and the external carotid arteries. Just after so hypoglossal canal, then there were two things that they have not written over here, but they were internal carotid artery and internal jugular vein. Then just below the inferior belly of the digastric muscle, this it passes between the external and the internal carotid arteries like this. Then on the, now when it reaches the inferior portion of this mylohyoid muscle, this red in color, when it reaches the inferior portion of this mylohyoid muscle, then it is going to innervate the muscles of the tongue. So now it innervates the muscles of the tongue. The muscles it innervates of the tongue are the intrinsic muscles of the tongue mainly. Then there are the styloglossus, the genioglossus, and as well as this hyoglossus muscle. So like this, it supplies these intrinsic muscles of the tongue, which are the superior and the inferior longitudinal. Then this transverse and vertical muscles, which are intrinsic muscles of the tongue, which will help the tongue to move. Secondly, we have the styloglossus, the hyoglossus, as well as these genioglossus muscles. They are also supplied by the hypoglossal nerve. But you should know that styloglossus and this hyoglossus, they are supplied from both the corticonuclear fibers from both the cerebral hemispheres. But this genioglossus is only supplied by the opposite side of the cerebral hemisphere. So now to explain the course more clearly to you, I have made this diagram. So first of all, as soon as the hypoglossal nerve comes out between the pyramid and the olive, it passes through the hypoglossal canal, then it runs between the internal carotid artery and the internal jugular vein. Then it comes forward, that is in the lower portion of the posterior belly of the digastric muscle. Then it passes between the internal carotid artery and the external carotid artery. Then it passes below the mylohyoid muscle to supply the intrinsic muscles of the tongue like this, and the styloglossus, genioglossus and hyoglossus muscles. Now they are saying that there are cortical nuclear fibers of the hypoglossal nerve, but if we have the muscles, the styloglossus and the hyoglossus, in this situation, both the muscle, for example, if the muscle is like this, so it will have fibers from both the cortexes. But if we have the case of genioglossus muscle, it will if the muscle is on the right side, it will have the fibers coming from the left side of the cerebral cortex and not from both the sides of cerebral cortex. So this is the difference between the styloglossus, hyoglossus and the genioglossus muscle and their innervation. So now they are saying that the hypoglossal nerve in its beginning portion is supplied by C1 fibers. The C1 fibers are helping to stabilize this portion of the hypoglossal nerve, but after the stabilization or supporting procedure over here, the C1 fibers come downwards and now they are going to supply the muscles of the neck. So it was a supporting role of the C1 fibers in the initial portion of the hypoglossal nerve course. So the whole nerve course is explained. You should always know that the hypoglossal nerve controls the movement as well as the shape of the tongue. Now we will go to the clinical correlates. So for the clinical correlates, one should always know that the hypoglossal nerve is a motor type of nerve. So whenever there will be any destruction of this nerve, there will be loss of movement of the tongue. Now what happens when there are lower motor neuron lesions, the tongue deviates towards the paralyzed side. For example, if there was a lesion on this side of the cortex or this side of the lower motor neuron, so the tongue will move toward this side, because now this portion, the lesion portion, has become smaller. It has undergone atrophy, it has undergone fasciculation, so the tongue has deviated to that side. So in case of any type of motor neuron lesion, instead of the tongue sticking out like this, the tongue either deviates to one side or the opposite side. So what does it mean? It means the side towards which the tongue is deviating, there is muscle atrophy. This side of the tongue has become smaller, as a result of which this longer side is going towards that side. Also, it means that this side of the lower motor neuron has some lesion and not the opposite side. But in case of the genioglossus muscle, what happens is, since I told you that the corticonuclear fibers of the genioglossus muscles were coming from the opposite cerebral cortex, so in the situation of the damage to genioglossus nerve fibers, what will happen that the tongue will move towards the opposite side. The deviation will not be on the same side, rather the deviation will be on the opposite side of the tongue. And they say that the lesions in the hypoglossal nerve can occur at any point along its course. They can be due to tumor, they can be due to the demyelination of the nerve, the syringomyelia and the vascular accidents. So this is how we define the clinical correlates relating to the hypoglossal nerve, which is a motor cranial nerve number 12.